Hi everyone, welcome to Chapter 1, Processing a New Employee for Payroll Accounting. So in this chapter, you'll be taught the definition of the Fair Labor Standards Act, how to use Circular E, and how to complete various new employee forms. You will also learn what workers' compensation insurance is and why it is important. Finally, you'll be taught how to create an employee earnings record. So that'll be part of your payroll project. So make sure to pay attention to that. So various topics, as I mentioned, will be the employee pay stub, a summary of the tax rates, the Fair Labor Standards Act, and the federal minimum wage, calculating overtime wages, child labor restrictions of this certain act, Circular E and Form SS4, which is a part of the employee identification number, hiring an employee, which includes the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996, Form SS5, and Form W4. Also keep in mind the additional hiring considerations. You have the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 and Form I-9 to consider. You also have other general payroll topics such as the workers' compensation insurance, payroll certifications, utilizing a payroll service, and employee earnings record. So I don't know if you covered the practice set A yet. I think there are 4 forms in there to consider. That should take a little around hour and a half or so, depending on what your pace is. So to prepare for this chapter and to look over the PowerPoint, make sure you have a laptop or desktop that is PowerPoint capable. And for the rest of the chapter, also make sure you have the Excel templates. Actually, that wouldn't apply here, but yeah, keep that in mind. Excel is definitely a software you want to have for your class. So, okay, so we'll start off with my learning objectives. We already went over that, the different type of things. So we start off with the employee's pay stub. Pay stub lists amounts not included on your check. You have the various taxes, such as the federal income tax, Social Security tax, Medicare tax. In this case, they're covering New York. They have a state income tax, also bond, 401k plans, and all that, the different type of adjustments. Other information you'd expect on an employee payment stub would be the company itself, the pay period. Usually it's semi-monthly, every 2 weeks. I've actually worked at a job that was weekly before, so there's always that possibility. And that's it. You got the earnings record, any overtime you may recover, and all that good stuff. So here are some of the tax rates. You have the state income tax withholding. That's like an estimate. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. You have the general excise tax for Hawaii. You have the Social Security tax, OASDI. That may be a little. Yeah, as I mentioned, here are the various taxes you want to consider that would probably be covered in the book. Federal unemployment tax, wage basis, and all that stuff. So, okay, so other things to consider with the employee pay stub. You want to consider that there's a difference from the gross pay and net pay. That should be obvious, but keep that in mind. Also, the different withholding amounts, if you claim 1, 0, and all that when you're looking at a pay stub. So the next topic I'll be covering is the Fair Labor Standards Act. Employers have to ensure compliance with the Fair Labor Standards Act. You have to establish a federal minimum wage, the overwages rate, which is 1.5 times, and also obvious child labor restrictions. So U.S. Congress set the federal minimum wage of 2009 at $7.25. The state of Hawaii has their own minimum wage laws. When state established rates disagree with the federal rate, the larger wage prevails. So in Hawaii, we have a larger minimum wage rate. Some exceptions to the federal minimum wage would be workers with disabilities, full-time students, young workers, tipped employees, and student learners. So from what I noticed though at the UH Maui College, you don't have that issue with any workers that I can think of where they get paid less than minimum wage. Why must we pay minimum wage? Well, the minimum wage applies to the people employed by large businesses, government agencies, local, federal, hospitals, and schools, and also covers domestic workers and employees. To calculate overtime wage, that would apply to workers who work more than 40 hours in a week, and as I mentioned, get paid 1.5 times the regular wages. Certain employees are exempt to executive, administrative, and professional workers, so that would apply to more so salary workers. Child labor restrictions include anyone working under 14 years of age. They can only perform certain type of activities like a paper boy, delivering newspapers. You got 14 and 15. They can work a variety of jobs, but are subject to different type of hour limitations. Depends on the state. And you have 16 and 17. They may work an unlimited number of hours. So keep that in mind. So just to keep in mind that the Fair Labor Standards Act was established in 1938, and the latest amendment was in 2009. There's some other notes on that. As you notice with the Fair Labor Standards Act, that covered the federal minimum wage, overtime, and child labor. Minimum wage has changed over the years, and they can vary with different states. So make sure to take note of that in the Chapter 2 form assignment. I know that's one of the forum discussions that I put on there for week 2. Yeah. And also, any other exceptions, we've covered that. And as per usual, a work week is defined as a consistent 7-day period. So that's another detail to actually keep in mind as well. So the Circular E. When you have a Circular E, you have to complete the Form SS4 form to obtain an employee identification number. So I have this SS4 form for you to fill out on the Labyrinth Learning for Chapter 1. When you hire an employee, you have the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996, which enables better enforcement of child support laws. SS5 is a form to obtain a Social Security number. Obviously, a Social Security number is very imperative or important to everything you sign up for, any type of form, any type of financial type of responsibility, driver's license, very important, obviously. You also have the W4 form. It indicates the number of tax allowances being claimed. Usually single people, no kids like myself will claim 0. You have those with 2 children, might claim 2. I've seen some people who've claimed large numbers greater than 5. I guess it's a way they want money up front, but yeah, just keep in mind allowances helps the employee to determine the number of allowances to claim. There's some details on that if you try to fill out a W4. So additional hiring considerations would be the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. It was intended to reduce illegal employment of foreign workers in the U.S. You have the Form I-9, completed by employees by the employee for acceptable documents, verified by the employer, and E-Verify, which compares information from the employee with that of government agencies. So other general payroll topics to consider. Hiring employees would be the obtain workers' compensation insurance, payroll certifications, payroll service providers. If you keep in mind the Chapter 1 form assignment, went over some different payroll service providers. A lot of information on that if you're interested in that topic. And also establishing a employee earnings record. So workers' compensation insurance required in most states. It's required in the state of Hawaii. It provides financial assistance to employees injured on the job, also paid by the employer. So it's a great benefit for employees to have. Premiums are based on the relative risk associated with different job types. So the payment for a workers' compensation insurance would probably be higher for someone who works in construction as opposed to someone who likely works at a desk job and all that. So payroll certifications. The American Payroll Association offers two certifications. You have the Fundamental Payroll Certification and the Certified Payroll Professional. The FPC establishes a baseline level of payroll competency, and then it looks like the CPP is a higher level of payroll mastery. So utilizing a payroll service, they include calculating employee net pay, as we went over with the pay stub. You have the gross pay and the net pay after various deductions such as different taxes and all that good stuff. So they generate the paychecks, and it can be completed monthly, quarterly. A lot of people are, semi-annually paid and all that. You can look at the different payroll tax and different documents. So lastly, we have the employee earnings record. So this contains all of the key employee and payroll information. This is something I'll have you fill out in the Chapter 1 assignment. There will be a few examples there. Also keep in mind the employee earnings record is something you'll be doing in the payroll project. So try to focus on this assignment here. It summarizes the different payments for different employees annually and the different payroll tax forms. It covers the payroll pay period ending, all the hours worked, overtime hours, wages, gross pay, the tax withheld for federal taxes, state withholding taxes, and etc. if you see here. So that concludes the video. I'll have an attachment of the Chapter 1 PowerPoint if you want to look at that. And yeah, feel free to ask me any questions. I'll be having a few videos up on how to fill out the various forms that you'd have to do for Chapter 1. And thank you for watching.